Okay, so just for complete transparency, I did film an entire intro to Booktube yesterday, and I got nothing but bloopers. So here's a little bit of that before we get into the actual introduction. Oh my God, are we on a new platform? We are on a new platform. How does one do an intro? It feels so wide. This is really gonna take some getting used to. I'm Sara. And now this feels weird. Okay, so I guess the entire point here is that I should probably introduce myself. My name is Sara, and I love books. I love reading books, I love talking about books, I love buying books. I would consider all of those separate hobbies. The genres that I enjoy the most would be romance, contemporary literature, horror, and fantasy. I love just about everything. To have a romantic subplot, I don't need it. Like, some of my favorite books don't have a romance subplot at all, but I do prefer it. I read via all formats. I'll read physical books, clearly, and ebooks, as well as audiobooks. I currently review books via TikTok, Goodreads, and Storygraph. I'm pivoting mainly because of the fact that I really love the book community that I've been able to participate in over on BookTok. And if that platform goes away, I don't want to lose the community that I have. I feel like I've become a better reader and I've learned a lot just by being involved in the book community. So this is my attempt to continue that progress. I also mentioned Goodreads and Storygraph. I personally prefer Storygraph, but I know a lot more people use Goodreads, so sometimes the information is just like more accessible there. But the Storygraph platform is so much better, and also it's not owned by Amazon. Full offense to Jeff Bezos. Speaking of, when I do buy books, I try to avoid Amazon at all costs. I go to my local bookstores, which it does include Barnes & Noble, but at the same time, like, that's just what I have around here. I do have a Kindle Unlimited subscription just because there's so many indie authors that are only available on Kindle Unlimited. So there's a little bit of a give and take there, but I try and do what I can to support local bookshops by buying books online through local bookshops with like bookshop.org and things like that. In addition to like publicly reviewing my books, I also have like a private Excel sheet that I use to track my reading goals as far as books read, pages read, and also like diversifying my books and just like being able to monitor how well I'm doing at that. This is where I'm at currently. I'm obviously trying to get these a little bit more balanced. Maybe not this one. That one can stay. I feel like a good way to kind of see if you're gonna jive with the types of books that I like and the style of books that I like, I could just give you some examples of some of my favorites. Okay, so here's the books that I picked, starting with On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. I absolutely love this writing style. You can tell that Ocean Vuong is a poet as he's written this. There were just so many moments where he explained really common but complex human experiences in just the most beautifully raw and precise way. This book is a book that I often find myself annotating quotes from this in other books because of that. And I'm gonna read a couple of them just because it's just so beautiful. The first quote is, "They say nothing lasts forever, but they're just scared it'll last longer than they can love it." One of my absolute favorites is, "Why did I feel more myself while reaching for him, my hand midair, than I did having touched him?" And then the quote that I'm most often writing in other books is, "Sometimes being offered tenderness feels like the very proof that you've been ruined." That just so perfectly explains that feeling of being like so bottled up, and then the second somebody asks you if you're okay, and then everything just falls apart. That's that. So I also mentioned that I just love a contemporary romance. And one of my absolute favorites, I want to say this is my favorite contemporary romance, but I feel like the second I say that, it changes. Beach Read by Emily Henry. It's not a surprise that I'm an Emily Henry girly, but at the same time, like, Beach Read is top tier Emily Henry. This is her best book. Obviously, I love Augustus and January. Their relationship was wonderful, but one of my favorite parts of this entire story was just January's relationship with her father and her simultaneously loving her father, missing her father, and also being angry at him for the mistakes that he made in his life, and just getting to know him after his death was so touching. And I read it at such a very specific and important part of my life that this is just one of those books that's gonna stick with me forever. Okay, and then completely changing pace here. I mentioned that I love horror, and Patricia Wants to Cuddle is like my favorite genre mashup of comedic horror. This is by Samantha Allen. This is absolutely fantastic. It's exactly what you would get if you mixed a 90s summer camp slasher with The Bachelor. So they put Bachelor-esque contestants in this summer camp slasher situation, which was just so wildly entertaining. The way that the characters were written were so distinct, and the commentary that you get from like these personalities and like reality TV was done very, very well. And then there were also points that were just like very tender and touching. This book is sapphic, it's queer, and it's so weird, and I loved it. It's weird in like the best of ways. And then also along the same lines of like horror is Her Body and Other Parties. I think just about anything written by Carmen Maria Machado is probably one of my favorites because I just love her writing style so much. But there are so many moments within this story. This is a collection of short horror stories, and there are so many moments within this collection that have just like stuck out, and I think about it all the time. There's one particular part that is in like the very first story that I constantly am thinking about, and the quote is, "He's not a bad man," and that I realize suddenly is the root of my hurt. He's not a bad man at all. To describe him as evil or wicked or corrupted would do a deep disservice to him. And yet, it's the and yet that always gets me. It's like there are good people who do bad things, and it doesn't necessarily make them a bad person, but they still inflict harm. I think about that all the time. Now, obviously, this is just like a few examples of some of my favorite books. I don't have physical copies of all of my favorite books. So here's just some examples of books that I also really love that I would love to talk about on this platform. Okay, so in addition to those like 5-star reads, I also have comfort genres that I gravitate towards when I feel like a reading slump coming on, or I just don't really know what to pick. And those don't tend to be like 5-star reads for me, but they are exactly what I need in the moment. They tend to be like hockey romances or dystopian wolf shifter romances. Sometimes some alien romances are in there. Again, these are usually like 3 or 4-star books, but I absolutely just adore them. Listen, I don't make the rules with those. If it gets me out of a reading slump, I'm on board. Okay, so that is a little bit about me and what I love about books. So what's to come with this channel? Where do I see it going? In case you know, you want to like this video, subscribe to this channel to see what's coming next. The things that I plan on talking about on this page specifically are going to be like reading and annotating vlogs. I plan on posting book reviews of either books that I've read in the past, or as I read books, posting book reviews of those, as well as doing some like reading wrap-ups on a monthly basis to just go through everything that I read that month, as well as like the books that I'm currently reading at the moment, because usually I have like a couple going at any given point in time. And then I also plan to speak to like the books that are on my priority TBR for the month. I say that loosely. Sometimes I don't stick to a TBR at all, but that's at least a good indication of like the things that are on my radar that you could be seeing in the future. So if you are interested in any of that, you know where the like button is. You know where the subscribe button is. In the meantime, you can follow me over on TikTok because I post there way more frequently. And if you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much for being here. You are an absolute gem, and I hope you have a beautiful day.